Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Having just signed off on his first ever and possibly last ever budget, Humza Yousaf has got now to face the music. He was told months ago that what he was proposing was unaffordable. Unfortunately, he won't listen to anyone. He knows best. After all, he is the brightest and best of the SNP. No one is better than him. No one is wiser, apparently. And so they pushed ahead with this budget, and it is going to crash and burn. It is a budget that is going to fail because everything they're proposing in it is destined to die. It is destined to crash and burn, and his charred corpse of a political career will be pulled from the ashes and he will be led away, hopefully in handcuffs at some point. But he will no longer be the leader of the party, and hopefully it'll be a party that will soon be gone. It will soon be disappeared. It will soon be bankrupted. But until then, we've just got to sit there with hope in our hearts and a smile on our face as we watch this party crumble from within. But when you're told that something is going to fail and you still do it ahead of, because of your own, I suppose, how can we put, arrogance, conceit, desire to be the one that's in charge, even though you're not capable of exercising that power, it's always delightful when there is a reckoning, and the reckoning is going to come. Let's have a look to see why Humza Yousaf is destined to fail, as everyone told him in advance it won't work. Here goes. So Humza Yousaf was warned budget proposals were unaffordable by civil servants. So he knows in advance. He knows, they all know, and yet they've progressed with it anyway. And you have to ask why. What was so important about this budget that they have to push it forward? The SNP leader signed off on his first and last budget on Tuesday, with Shona Robinson's spending plans having been widely criticised. Criticised by the opposition, criticised by the councils, criticised by members of her own party, criticised by every group that has any interest in it at all. It is such a bad, bad budget. And yet, knowing it, they still push it forward. So when things do go wrong, which they undoubtedly will, it will come as no surprise to us, but it will be everyone else's fault when you question them about it afterwards. Humza Yousaf was warned months ago that his policies were unaffordable by senior civil servants. It has emerged. The First Minister signed off on his first and last budget on Tuesday as Shona Robinson's controversial spending plans were voted through Holyrood. The SNP leader had to be reeled in when he set out his programme for government in September, according to reports in the Times. The paper has obtained a document from government officials pointing out affordability risks associated with your programme for government. And that's the polite way of saying, are you off your rocker, matey? Because he wants this and he wants that, and he doesn't know how he's going to pay for it because he doesn't know very much. He is a bear of very little brains. It has led to suggestions Mr Yousaf is winging it as his role of the head of Scottish Government. Well, of course he is. He's never had any kind of control before in his life. He hasn't got a clue what he's doing. When's he even run a department? I don't mean a government department. In an office, a normal office. He wasn't the boss in that. He was the man on the telephone doing as he was told. Oh, how far he's come. From someone with very little power in an office to someone with very little power in office. Anyway, officials highlighted a funding gap of £1 billion in 24-25. A figure expected to double the year after. Written by the Executive's Chief Financial Officer, Director of Budget and Public Spending, and the Directors General of the Scottish Exchequer and Corporate Department, it was handed to Mr Yousaf and his deputy, Miss Robinson, on the 28th of August last year, just over a week before he set out his plans. So they knew in advance, and yet they still go ahead with this madcap spending policy. But to pay for it, taxes go up, charges go up, everything goes up, and cuts everywhere to the places that don't matter, like public health, social care, education, all the unimportant stuff. But it is going up. There is the spending in all the things that they consider important, like independence and pretendy embassies. It points out the SNP leader received advice on Friday explaining the affordability risks associated with the programme for government and the implications for the 24-25 Scottish budget. content of the paper had been discussed with the Permanent Secretary John Paul Marks and stated work was taking place to find areas that could be cut. Mr Yousaf was told his building and infrastructure plans were unaffordable. And Tuesday's budget ended up including £200 million in cuts to affordable housing. The document also warned against increasing council tax for higher valued properties, saying a consultation had shown a level of negative reaction. Now, they then went ahead and said, well, I'll tell you what, instead of not putting up council tax on expensive properties, which they all own, because, you know, they go, oh, council tax freeze for all, but it'll benefit those of us with the big houses most. Yay, hey. It was a budget for the rich. And, of course, the rich will now just take a look at everything they're doing. They go, right, get in, we're selling up, let's go, boom, 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 off they go. And they'll move their businesses south or whatever. And, you know, they don't care because they've got the capital, they can move, doesn't bother them. But you're removing all the wealth, the entrepreneurship, the experience, but also all the ability to earn. And, of course, the tax base itself is also going to come south and go to the English Parliament, the British Parliament, the UK Parliament, get it right, which is more money lost to them. So next year they've got an even bigger hole in the budget because there's no one paying income tax. Or no one big, all the little people, you know, the commoners, us lot, will have to pay. But, you know, the rich boys, they're off. That's what they do. I've told the story before. Norway started putting up income tax on billionaires. And within 72 hours, there wasn't a billionaire in Norway. They all got up and walked away. Who can blame them? Weeks after receiving the note, Mr Yousaf announced a council tax freeze at the SNP conference. The budget included £210 million to fund it, but local authorities say it's nowhere near enough to plug gaps. While one, Argyll and Butte, have ignored the government and have hiked the rate by 10%. And another one will be voting today. We've done the video on that, so keep an eye out on Falkirk. That looks like it also will be putting it up. Anyway, instead, the SNP has increased tax for middle and high earners. Well, if you count a teacher as being high earner, it's not really, it's slightly above average. Including the introduction of a new tax bracket. Liz Smith, Scottish Conservative finance spokesman, said, the warning was another case of Humza Yousaf winging it. He's told in advance what will happen, and then he acts all surprised when it comes to pass. Oh, verily it will come to pass, dear Humza, and don't be giving us the cod about, oh, I didn't see that, I didn't foresee that, nobody told me. Yes, they did. Everybody knows they did, and you knew that it would fail, and still did it, because you can never be wrong, can you? Michael Mara, Scottish Labour finance spokesman, said this makes clear that even at the most senior levels of the civil service, there were warnings about the financial chaos the SNP government has created. A Scottish Government spokesman said, a load of old rubbish and we don't want to listen because it's all spin and BS. So we'll move back on up. We'll round off the video and I'll come up and finish. What an absolute buffoon, though. And that's the face of somebody confused who doesn't understand things. Must be permanently etched, mustn't it? Coming up. I'm pretty sure that just about everyone in the SNP upper echelons is somehow retarded. I mean, none of them have got a brain, have they? They all go around and they get told things and they just ignore it. As though if they ignore it hard enough, it will go away. Well, it won't. And when Scotland crashes and burns under this stupid budget, it'll be everyone's fault except theirs. Despite the fact that they've been warned several times. Don't do this. Don't do it. Everyone's saying, don't do it. And he can't help himself. It's like a big red button saying, do not hit this button. He has to, doesn't he, slam it every time. Self-delusional and self-obsessed with his own greatness. And look at the chaos and destruction he leaves in his wake. What an absolute buffoon. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.